The darkness came first, then the sound, a percussion of gunfire echoing through concrete corridors, the sharp crack of rifle rounds punching through metal, the deeper boom of grenades shaking foundations built to withstand earthquakes. Dr. Devereaux Hartley stood motionless in the center of Trauma Bay 2. Around her, chaos. Blood pooled on white tile floors. Monitors screamed their urgent warnings. Three men lay broken on surgical tables, their bodies torn by violence. She recognized too well. Her hands did not shake. The overhead lights flickered as another explosion rocked the Naval Medical Center. Dust rained from ceiling tiles. A young nurse ducked instinctively, covering her head. The security alarm blared its monotone warning through speakers mounted in every corner. Hostile forces breaching perimeter. Devereaux's fingers moved with surgical precision across the abdomen of the man before her. Scalpel, clamp, suture. Her eyes never left her work, even as the building shuddered around her. Someone shouted something about evacuation. She ignored them. The wound beneath her hands was deep. Shrapnel had torn through muscle and nicked the femoral artery. Any hesitation meant death. Any distraction meant failure. Her world narrowed to 6 inches of exposed tissue and the steady rhythm of her breathing. In, out, in, out. The same rhythm she had learned 8 years ago in a very different place, when her hands held different tools and her purpose was measured in meters gained rather than lives saved. Behind her, a junior surgeon fumbled with surgical instruments. His fear showed in every trembling movement. Devereaux did not look up. "Dr. Hartley," someone said. The voice belonged to Commander Rafferty Knox. Even injured, even bleeding from the gash across his shoulder, he watched her with eyes that missed nothing. "They're inside the building." Her hands never paused. "I know," she said quietly. Outside, the trauma bay boots thundered past. Orders were shouted in tones that brooked no argument. The rattle of automatic weapons fire grew closer, louder, more insistent. Devereaux tied off the final suture. The monitor above the table settled into a steady beep. The wounded SEAL's blood pressure stabilized. His breathing evened out. She stepped back from the table. Blood covered her surgical gown. Exhaustion lined her face. But her eyes remained cold, calculating, focused. Knox watched her with an expression somewhere between respect and suspicion. "You've done this before," he said. It was not a question. Devereaux pulled off her blood-stained gloves, dropped them in the medical waste bin. When she looked at Knox, something flickered across her features. Something old. Something she had worked 3 years to bury. "Everyone's done something before, Commander." The lights died. Emergency power kicked in after 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Red bulbs bathed the trauma bay in crimson shadow. And in that moment, in that blood-colored darkness, Devereaux's face changed. The careful mask slipped. The quiet surgeon vanished. What remained was something harder, sharper. Forged in places where hesitation meant death and mercy was a luxury no one could afford. She moved to the window, looked out at the compound beyond. Her reflection stared back from the glass. Behind it, flames climbed into the night sky. Knox saw her lips move. Barely a whisper. But in the sudden silence between explosions, he heard her words clearly. "They asked me why I left special operations." She turned from the window. Her eyes found his. "Tonight, they're about to find out I never really did." 72 hours earlier, the nightmare always started the same way. Water. Cold enough to stop the heart. Dark enough to swallow hope. Devereaux thrashed against it, lungs burning, muscles screaming. Above her, ice sealed the surface. Below her, nothing but black water and the weight of all her failures dragging her down. Hands reached for her through the darkness. Hands she could not save. She woke at 0200 hours. Like she always did. Her sheets were soaked with sweat despite the air conditioning that kept her quarters at a steady 68 degrees. The nightmares had followed her from Syria to Virginia, from battlefields to hospitals, from the woman she used to be to the person she pretended to be now. Devereaux sat up, pressed her palms against her eyes until she saw stars, counted her breathing until her heart rate dropped below 90. In, out, in, out. Professional athletes called it controlled breathing. Snipers called it getting into the zone. She called it survival. Her phone showed 0203, 2 hours until her shift started at the Naval Medical Center. Not enough time to fall back asleep. Too much time to sit alone with her thoughts. She rose, dressed in the dark. Military efficiency guided her movements even now. Shirt, pants, shoes, each item in its designated place. Each action performed in the same order it had been performed every morning for 8 years. Old habits died hard, or they did not die at all. The drive to the medical center took 23 minutes through empty San Diego streets. She knew the route by heart. knew which intersections had cameras, which alleys offered escape routes if needed. She told herself this awareness was paranoia. She knew it was training. The facility's parking lot held 6 vehicles at this hour. Devereaux chose a spot near the exit, backed in, left her keys in the ignition. Small precautions that most people never noticed. But some people did. The security guard at the entrance nodded as she passed. "Early again, Doc." "Couldn't sleep," she said. It was true enough. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed their electric song. The smell of disinfectant and floor wax-filled corridors that never truly slept. Even at 0245, nurses moved between rooms. Monitors beeped. Somewhere on the 3rd floor, someone moaned in pain. Devereaux made her way to the surgical wing, to the locker room where she kept her scrubs and the parts of herself she showed to the world. The face in the mirror looked tired. Dark circles shadowed green eyes. Blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail showed threads of premature gray. She refused to die. 28 years old, already carrying a lifetime of ghosts, she changed into surgical scrubs, washed her hands with methodical precision, checked her pager even though she knew no messages waited. The ritual soothed her, gave structure to the hours between nightmares and dawn. "You're here early?" Devereaux did not jump at the voice, did not startle. Her body went still instead, perfectly motionless, the way prey freezes when predators pass too close. Another old habit. She turned to find Ainsley Brennan watching her from the doorway. The head surgical nurse was 52. Gray streaked her auburn hair. 30 years of emergency medicine had carved lines around her eyes and mouth. Those eyes missed very little. "Paperwork," Devereaux said. The lie came easily. "Wanted to get ahead of it." Ainsley nodded slowly. Her expression suggested she knew the truth but would not press for it. "Coffee's fresh in the break room," she said instead. "You look like you could use it." "Thanks." Ainsley lingered a moment longer. "You know, Doc, insomnia is a symptom, not a badge of honor." Devereaux met her gaze without flinching. "I'll keep that in mind." The older woman left without another word, but Devereaux felt the weight of her concern long after her footsteps faded down the corridor. She finished changing, locked her civilian clothes in her locker. The metal door closed with a hollow clang that echoed in the empty room. On the inside of the door, she had taped a single photograph. 12 men in desert fatigues, young faces, tired eyes. The kind of photograph taken after successful missions when everyone was still alive to smile for the camera. She had saved all 12 of them. It had cost her everything. Devereaux touched the photo with one finger, a gesture she performed every morning, a promise she renewed with every sunrise. Never again. She left the locker room, made her way to the trauma bay. Night shift staff nodded greetings. She returned them with professional courtesy that kept relationships shallow and questions minimal. Dr. Devereaux Hartley, trauma surgeon, skilled, dedicated, unremarkable except for her preternatural calm under pressure. That was the story she told. That was the lie she lived. The truth remained locked away, buried beneath 3 years of medical school and residency, hidden behind hospital credentials and surgical techniques. The truth was dangerous. The truth had a body count. She settled into the quiet routine of pre-dawn rounds, checked on post-operative patients, reviewed charts, consulted with night staff about ongoing cases. Normal, ordinary, safe. At 0247, her pager vibrated. She glanced at the screen. A simple message from the emergency department. Incoming trauma. ETA unknown. Prepare for surgery. Devereaux acknowledged the page, made her way to Trauma Bay 2, began the familiar ritual of preparation. Instruments laid out in precise order. Monitors powered on. IV lines prepared. Routine. Until it was not. At 0301, the emergency alarm shattered the pre-dawn quiet. Mass casualty incoming. Multiple casualties. SEAL Team 7 hit by IED during night operations. ETA, 5 minutes. The words cut through her carefully constructed calm. SEAL Team 7. Her hands paused over the surgical tray. Just for a second, just long enough for old memories to surface. Other teams, other missions. Other nights when broken bodies arrived wrapped in blood and desert dust. "Dr. Hartley," Ainsley's voice pulled her back. The older nurse stood in the doorway, concern creasing her features. "I'm fine," Devereaux said. Her voice came out steady, professional. "How many casualties?" 3 confirmed, possibly more. Severity, wow. Critical, blast injuries, penetrating trauma. Devereaux nodded, forced her mind into the cold clarity that kept patients alive. Lives depended on her focus. Lives always depended on her focus. "Alert or 2 and 3, she ordered. Get me 2 more surgeons on standby. I want a full trauma team ready in 90 seconds. Ainsley moved immediately, began making calls, shouting orders. The trauma bay erupted into controlled chaos as staff appeared from every corner of the facility. Devereaux stood at the center of the storm, perfectly still, perfectly focused. Outside, rotors beat against the night sky. The distinctive thunder of military helicopters approaching fast and low. She closed her eyes, counted 3 breaths. In, out, in, out. When she opened them again, Dr. Devereaux Hartley wore her surgeon's mask, but underneath something older stirred, something that recognized the sound of war coming home. The first helicopter landed with a roar that shook windows. Devereaux stood ready as the trauma team burst through the doors. 3 stretchers, 3 men, 3 lives hanging by threads. First casualty, a medic shouted over the noise. Sergeant Thaddeus Wolf, 29, lower extremity blast injury, massive hemorrhage, pressure barely maintaining. They slammed the stretcher onto the surgical table. Devereaux moved immediately. Her hands found the wound through blood-soaked bandages. Catastrophic damage. The IED had shredded his left leg below the knee. Bone fragments, torn muscle, arterial bleeding that should have killed him already. Get me 4 units of O negative, she snapped. Prep for emergency amputation. Move. The team responded instantly. No questions, no hesitation. They had worked with her long enough to trust her judgment. Around her organized chaos. Machines beeped, people shouted, blood pooled on pristine floors. Devereaux tuned it all out. Her world narrowed to the wound, the anatomy, the delicate dance between saving a life and watching it slip away. Scalpel, clamp, tie off the bleeder. Her hands moved with precision that seemed almost supernatural. Muscle memory from thousands of hours in operating rooms, and from other places, other times, when surgical theaters were dirt floors and sterilization meant hoping for the best. Second casualty incoming. Another stretcher crashed through the doors, another broken body, this one with a face she could see through the oxygen mask. Petty Officer Garrison Pike, 26, shrapnel to the chest, pneumothorax. Respiratory distress. Get him to OR3, Devereaux ordered without looking up from Wolf. Page Dr. Morrison, tell him I need that chest tube in now. Third casualty stable, someone reported. Commander Knox, multiple lacerations, possible concussion. He's conscious and refusing treatment. Of course he was. SEALs always refuse treatment. Devereaux tied off the final bleeder on Wolf's leg. The blood flow slowed, stopped. His vitals began to stabilize. Keep pressure on that wound, she told the assisting nurse. If it starts bleeding again, you call me immediately. Yes, doctor. She stepped back, stripped off bloodied gloves, pulled on fresh ones, moved to evaluate Pike before they wheeled him to surgery. That was when she saw Knox. The SEAL commander sat on a gurney against the far wall. Blood ran from a gash across his left shoulder. His uniform was torn and scorched. Dust and debris covered his face, but his eyes were clear. Gazed like a physical weight. She gazed like a physical weight. She approached Pike's stretcher, examined the chest wound with quick efficiency, listened to his breathing through her stethoscope. Collapsed lung, she confirmed. Get him upstairs. Morrison should be scrubbed in by now. They wheeled Pike away. Devereaux turned to Knox. Commander, let me look at that shoulder. It's fine, he said. His voice carried the gravel of too many years shouting orders over gunfire. It's bleeding. I've had worse. I'm sure you have. Let me look anyway. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded, allowed her to approach. The wound was deep but clean. The shrapnel had carved a furrow through muscle without hitting bone or major vessels. Lucky as anyone caught in an IED blast could be. Devereaux cleaned the wound, applied pressure, began suturing with steady hands. Knox watched her work. You're good at this, he said. I'm a surgeon. It's my job. I've seen surgeons work. You're different. Her hands did not pause. How so? You move like you've done field surgery before. The observation landed like a punch, sharp, precise, aimed at vulnerabilities she thought she had hidden. Medical school teaches practical application, she said evenly. Residency provides experience. That's not what I mean. Devereaux met his eyes, held his gaze while she worked. What do you mean, Commander? Knox was quiet for several heartbeats. Around them, the trauma bay had settled into focused activity. Wolf was being prepped for transport to the OR. Pike was already upstairs. The initial chaos had given way to methodical medical procedure. The way you triage, Knox said finally. Wolf first, Pike second, Me last. You didn't waste time on assessment. You knew who was critical the moment we came through those doors. Training. Maybe. He tilted his head slightly. Or experience. The kind that doesn't come from textbooks. Devereaux tied off the final suture, stepped back, stripped off her gloves with sharp, decisive movements. Your shoulder will be fine, Commander. Keep it dry for 48 hours. Come back if you see signs of infection. She turned to leave. Dr. Hartley? She stopped. Did not turn around. I saw how you moved when they brought Pike in. When the stretcher hit the door, you shifted your stance, balanced your weight, like you were expecting contact. Now she did turn, slowly. Her expression gave away nothing. I was expecting a patient, Commander. I got one. Knox nodded, but his eyes said he did not believe her. Thank you for the medical attention, Doctor. You're welcome. She left the trauma bay, walked down the corridor toward the surgical wing. Her footsteps echoed on linoleum floors. Behind her, she felt Knox's gaze tracking her every move. He suspected something. She would need to be more careful. The next 3 days passed in a blur of surgery and recovery. Wolf stabilized after a 6-hour operation to save what remained of his leg. The amputation was partial. With physical therapy, he would walk again. Fight again if he chose. Pike's collapsed lung reinflated after Morrison placed the chest tube. His recovery would be longer but complete. Knox refused admission, left the hospital against medical advice, but he kept returning, visiting his men, asking questions disguised as small talk. Devereaux saw him often during rounds, too often to be coincidence. He was investigating, doing what SEALs did best, gathering information, piecing together puzzles that did not quite fit. Other members of SEAL Team 7 began arriving, visiting their wounded teammates, talking in low voices about the mission, about the IED, about the ambush they never saw coming. They spoke freely around Devereaux, assumed she could not understand their world, assumed wrong. She heard them discuss tactics and terrain, heard them debate what went wrong and how they might have prevented it, heard the pain in their voices when they talked about the men who did not make it home. She understood every word, understood it better than they knew. Small incidents accumulated like snow before an avalanche. On the second day, a surgical tray crashed to the floor behind her. The noise was sharp, sudden, explosive. Devereaux spun, dropped into a defensive crouch. Her hands came up instinctively, fists clenched, weight balanced, ready. For exactly 2 seconds, she was not a doctor. She was something else entirely. Then awareness crashed back. She straightened, smoothed her scrubs, looked up to find Ainsley staring at her with wide eyes. Sorry, the nurse said quietly. Butterfingers. It's fine. But it was not fine. Corporal Bridger Ryland had been standing near the nurse's station. He saw the whole thing, saw her reaction, saw the way she moved. His expression flickered with recognition. That evening, Devereaux caught him talking quietly with Knox. Both men glanced her direction. Conversation died when she approached. Gentlemen, she said, visiting hours end at 8. Just leaving Doc, Ryland said. But his eyes held questions he did not voice. She made her notes, checked vitals, maintained the appearance of routine medical care. But she felt their eyes on her, felt them watching, analyzing, connecting dots they should not be able to see. On the third day, the facility lost power during a routine maintenance procedure. Emergency generators kicked in after 15 seconds of complete darkness. 15 seconds? Most people panicked. Nurses called out. Patients became anxious. Equipment alarms wailed their electronic protests. Devereaux stood perfectly still in the dark. Calm, oriented, comfortable. Too comfortable. When the lights returned, Knox was watching her from across the ward. His expression was thoughtful, calculating. Power outages don't bother you, he observed. I've worked through worse. I'm sure you have. That afternoon, while checking Wolf's bandages, she discussed pain management options, mentioned battlefield analgesia protocols, specified dosages used by combat medics in the field, information she should not possess, knowledge that required experience she supposedly did not have. Wolf looked at her strangely. How do you know about ketamine protocols for combat injuries, Doc? She realized her mistake immediately. Medical journals, she said. I keep current with military medicine research. Right, but his tone suggested he heard the lie. Knox appeared in the doorway. Dr. Hartley. Could I speak with you privately? Here it comes, she thought. Of course, Commander. They walked to an empty consultation room. Knox closed the door, gestured for her to sit. She remained standing. Where did you do your medical training, he asked. Johns Hopkins, trauma surgery residency. Good program. Very good. Ever work overseas? Medical missions? Disaster relief? The questions came casual, conversational, but Devereaux recognized interrogation technique when she heard it. Some volunteer work, she said, nothing too exciting. Where Central America mostly, hurricane relief, that sort of thing. Ever spend time in the Middle East? Her expression did not change. No. Knox studied her face, looking for tells, for the micro-expressions that revealed deception. She gave him nothing. You have excellent trauma skills, he said, better than most surgeons I've seen, even the ones with combat experience. I take my work seriously, Commander. I can see that. He paused. Can I ask you something? You can ask. That reaction when the tray dropped, the way you moved, that wasn't instinct. That was training. Devereaux held his gaze. Everyone has different stress responses. Not like that. I've seen that exact movement pattern before. In operators, people trained for close quarters combat. Silence stretched between them, heavy, weighted with implications. I appreciate your concern, Commander, Devereaux said finally. But I'm just a doctor, nothing more, nothing less. Are you, yes. Knox watched her for another long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, doctor. Thank you for your time. She left the consultation room with careful, measured steps, did not allow herself to hurry, did not show the anxiety coiling in her chest, but her hands shook when she reached the privacy of her office. They were getting too close. Knox was smart, observant, trained to see what others missed. She would need to be perfect. No more mistakes, no more slips. The mask could not crack again. On the fourth night at 0200 hours, alarms screamed through the facility. Devereaux was in her office, reviewing charts, trying not to think about Syria or snow or hands reaching through dark water. Code Blue Trauma Ward, Code Blue. She ran, burst through the doors to find nurses surrounding Wolf's bed. The SEAL was convulsing, his body arched against restraints. Foam flecked his lips. Seizure, Ainsley reported, started 90 seconds ago, not responding to initial medication. Devereaux pushed through the crowd, checked his pupils. They were blown, unresponsive. Get me diazepam, 5 milligrams IV, push. Already administered, no effect. Temperature, 104.3, and climbing. Infection, severe, the kind that could kill within hours if not controlled. Start broad-spectrum antibiotics. Get him to ICU now. They moved with practiced efficiency, wheeling Wolf toward the intensive care unit while Devereaux called orders. In the ICU under harsh fluorescent lights, she worked to save his life. Again. The fever broke at 0430. Wolf's temperature began dropping. His seizures stopped. His vitals stabilized into something resembling normal. But he did not wake up. Instead, he started talking, words, fragments, sentences that made no sense and perfect sense all at once. Ghost, he mumbled through cracked lips. Ghost actual. Extraction point compromised. Devereaux froze. Ainsley looked up from the monitors. What's he saying? Fever dreams, Devereaux said quickly. Delirium. It's normal with temperatures that high. Wolf thrashed weakly against the sheets. Viper team, he gasped. Didn't make it. Where but Devereaux, Captain Hartley? The room went silent. Ainsley stared. The ICU nurse stared. And at the doorway drawn by the commotion, Knox and Ryland stared. Wolf's eyes snapped open, unfocused, burning with fever. They found Devereaux's face. Captain Hartley, he whispered, you made it out. They said you were KIA. His hands shot out, grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. Ghost actual, he said clearly, distinctly. You saved us. You saved all 12. Then his eyes rolled back. His grip loosened. He slipped back into unconsciousness. But the damage was done. Knox stepped into the room. His expression was no longer curious. It was certain. Dr. Hartley, he said quietly, I think we need to talk. Devereaux looked at Wolf's unconscious form, at the monitors tracking his vitals, at the nurses whose faces showed confusion and dawning understanding, at Knox, whose eyes held recognition. The mask had not just cracked. It had shattered completely, and there was no putting it back together. The consultation room felt smaller than it was. Knox closed the door with a soft click that sounded final. Definitive. The kind of sound that marked the end of one thing and the beginning of another. Devereaux stood with her back to the window. Behind her, dawn painted the San Diego skyline in shades of amber and rose. Beautiful. Indifferent. The world continued turning whether secrets lived or died. Ryland entered behind Knox, closed the door, took up position against the wall with the casual alertness of a man trained to secure rooms. They were not just asking questions now. They were containing a situation. "Sit down," Dr. Tannock said. "I prefer to stand." That wasn't a request. Devereaux met his eyes, held them. Something passed between them, an understanding, a recognition of what was about to happen. She sat. Knox remained standing. Ryland did not move from his position by the door. The geometry of the room put her at the center, surrounded, unable to leave without pushing past one of them. Standard interrogation positioning. She knew because she had used it herself. "Ghost actual," Knox said. The words fell like stones into still water. "That's what Wolf called you." "He has a fever of 104 degrees, Devereaux replied. Her voice remained calm, professional. Patients experiencing delirium often mix familiar faces with traumatic memories. It's well documented in medical literature. "He called you Captain Hartley." "My last name is Hartley." His fevered mind made a connection that doesn't exist. Ryland spoke for the first time. His voice was younger than Knox's, harder in different ways. "He said you saved 12 people. I've saved dozens of people, Corporal. It's my job." He mentioned Operation Nightfall. The name hung in the air between them. Heavy, classified, dangerous. Devereaux's expression did not change. But something shifted behind her eyes, a wall going up, or perhaps coming down. "I don't know what that is," she said. Knox pulled a chair around, sat facing her. Too close. Deliberate violation of personal space. Another interrogation technique. "Operation Nightfall," he said quietly, "was a classified mission 3 years ago. Syria, 12 Marines captured by hostile forces, held in a compound that was supposed to be impenetrable." He paused, watching her face. "A special operations team went in, led by someone with the call sign Ghost Actual. They extracted all 12 Marines, 0 friendly casualties during the rescue." Devereaux said nothing. "Official records list Ghost Actual as KYA during extraction, killed in action, body never recovered." Still, she remained silent. "But Wolf was part of the support element for that operation," Knox continued. "He would have been briefed, would have met the team leader. And in his delirium, he recognized you." Ryland pushed off from the wall, moved closer. "Your defensive crouch when that tray dropped," he said. "That's not civilian reflex, that's CQC training. Close quarters combat. The way you balanced your weight, hands up, center mass protected. I've seen it 1,000 times. In operators. Your field medicine knowledge," Knox added. "Battlefield triage protocols. Ketamine dosages for combat injuries. Things you shouldn't know unless you've been there. Medical journals. Don't lie to us, doctor." Knox's voice remained quiet, but steel ran through it. "We're not here to expose you. We're here for the truth." The room fell silent. Devereaux looked at each man in turn, saw determination, saw certainty, saw the end of 3 years of careful concealment. She could keep lying, or she could stop running. "Everything about my medical credentials is true," she said finally. Her voice was different now, stripped of pretense. "I am Dr. Devereaux Hartley, Johns Hopkins Medical School, trauma surgery residency, board certified, licensed, legitimate." She paused. "But before medical school, I served 8 years in special operations." The admission landed like a physical blow. Knox leaned back slightly. Ryland's eyes widened. "My call sign," she continued, "was Ghost Actual." "Jesus," Ryland breathed. Knox said nothing, just watched her with an expression she could not quite read. "Why did you leave?" he asked. And there it was, the question she had been asking herself for 3 years. Devereaux stood, moved to the window, looked out at the lightning sky. "Because I got tired of making choices no one should have to make." "Explain." She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried echoes of old pain. "Operation Nightfall was my last mission. We went in to extract 12 Marines. The mission plan was textbook. Fast insertion, breach the compound, extract the hostages, exfiltrate before enemy reinforcements arrived." Her reflection in the window looked older than 28. "Everything went perfectly. Until it didn't." The memory rose unbidden, unwanted, unavoidable. Syria. 3 years ago, the compound walls still smoking from the breaching charges. Devereaux moved through corridors with her team spread behind her. 7 operators, the best of the best, moving like shadows through enemy territory. They found the Marines in a basement cell. 12 men, some wounded, all exhausted, but alive. "Ghost Actual to all elements," she whispered into her radio. "Packages secured, moving to extraction point." They climbed stairs, crossed courtyards. The night air smelled of cordite and burning fuel. Behind her, Lieutenant Callum Thorne covered the rear. 34 years old, 10 years in special operations, the best 2IC she had ever worked with. Cold, efficient, lethal. Contact front, someone called. Gunfire erupted. The night exploded into chaos. They fought their way through, reached the extraction point. The helicopters waited 300 meters away across open ground. That was when the enemy reinforcements arrived. Trucks, dozens of them, headlights cutting through darkness like searchlights. "Ghost, we need to move now," Thorne said. His voice remained calm, despite the urgency. "If we don't cross that clearing in the next 60 seconds, we're dead." Devereaux assessed the situation with tactical precision that had been drilled into her through years of training. 12 rescued Marines, some wounded, moving slow, 7 operators, moving fast, enemy closing from 3 sides. The math was simple, brutal, unforgiving. "We move together," she decided. "All of us or none of us." Thorne grabbed her arm, spun her to face him. "That's suicide. Leave the wounded Marines. We extract our team and the Marines who can run. Come back for the others later." "Later they'll be dead." "Maybe, but definitely if we all die here." She pulled free of his grip. "We don't leave people behind." "That's not the mission parameter. I'm changing the parameters. You're going to get us all killed. Then we die together. Move out." They ran. Across open ground, under fire. Bullets kicked up dirt around their feet. Tracers streaked overhead like angry hornets. The helicopter's rotors beat thunder into the night. 200 meters, 100, 50. They were going to make it. Then the RPG hit. The explosion threw Devereaux forward. She landed hard, ears ringing, vision blurred. When she looked back, 2 of her team were down. Staff Sergeant Kellen Morse, 23, engaged to be married. Specialist Brighton Vale, 27, new father to an 8-month-old son. Both dead, killed instantly by the blast. But all 12 Marines made it to the helicopters. All 12 lived because Devereaux refused to leave them behind. 2 of her own died because she made that choice. In the consultation room, Devereaux turned from the window. "My 2IC filed a report. Said I violated mission parameters. Got 2 operators killed through reckless decision-making." "Did you?" Knox asked. "Yes, no hesitation, no excuse. The military gave me a choice. Court-martial, or quiet discharge with my record sealed. Ghost actual, officially listed as KYA. So you became a doctor." "I became a doctor because I was done creating casualties. I wanted to heal them instead." Ryland stepped closer. "Those 2 who died, Morse and Vale, did you know them well?" "We trained together, deployed together. They trusted me to lead them home. And you got them killed." The words should have hurt, should have cut deep. They did not, because Devereaux had said them to herself 10,000 times already. "Yes," she said simply. Knox stood, moved to stand beside her at the window. "What about the 12 Marines?" he asked quietly. "What about their families, their futures? What about them?" "Wolf has a daughter, 3 years old. She exists because you refused to leave him behind." Devereaux's breath caught. "I didn't know. Her name is Brighton. He named her after Specialist Vale because you saved his life and he wanted to honor the sacrifice." The information hit harder than any accusation. Ryland spoke again. "Those 12 Marines, they went home, got married, had kids, built lives because of your choice. And Morse and Vale didn't." "No," Knox agreed. "They didn't, but they died saving those lives. That means something." "Does it? You tell me, doctor. Was it worth it?" The question had haunted her for 3 years, through medical school, through residency, through every surgery and every saved life. Was it worth it? Devereaux did not answer. Could not answer. Before anyone could speak again, Knox's radio crackled to life. "Commander Knox, report to security briefing room. Priority alert." Knox keyed his mic. "On my way." He looked at Devereaux. "We're not done with this conversation, but I need you to know something first." "What?" "Whatever happened in Syria, whatever choices you made, you saved Wolf's life. Pike's life. Maybe mine too. Your past doesn't change that." He moved toward the door, paused, looked back. "Ghost Actual might be officially dead, but Dr. Devereaux Hartley is one hell of a surgeon. Don't forget that." They left her alone in the consultation room, alone with her ghosts and her choices in the question that had no good answer. 20 minutes later, alarms sounded throughout the facility. Not medical alarms, security alarms. Devereaux found Knox in the security office. He stood before a large monitor displaying tactical information. Base layout, threat assessment. Intelligence reports scrolling past in rapid succession. What's happening? She asked. Knox did not look away from the screen. Intel suggests possible attack on the base within 48 hours. Attack from whom? Unknown hostiles, professional operators. They've been probing our defenses for the past week. He pulled up reconnaissance footage, showed movement patterns, approach vectors. Devereaux studied the screen. Old instincts surfaced. Tactical awareness she had tried to bury. They're mapping your medical evacuation routes, she said. Knox turned to look at her. How do you know? Because that's what I would do. The admission hung between them. If you were planning an attack on this facility, Knox said slowly, how would you do it? Devereaux should have refused, should have maintained her distance, should have stayed in her lane as a surgeon and nothing more. But lives were at stake, and old habits died hard. She moved closer to the monitor, studied the base layout, the defensive positions, the vulnerabilities. Here, she said, pointing to the eastern approach. Limited sight lines, dead space in the security camera coverage. If I wanted to breach the perimeter, that's where I'd come in. Ryland, who had followed Knox to the security office, made notes. What about the medical facility specifically? Knox asked. If you were targeting our medical response capability, how would you do it? Devereaux's mind shifted into operational mode. Strategic thinking, tactical planning. The transformation was subtle but complete. Generate mass casualties first. Overwhelm your medical staff. Then hit the facility when everyone's focused on saving lives. Take out your surgeons, your equipment, your blood supply. Suddenly you can't treat wounded, can't sustain operations. Knox exchanged glances with Ryland. That's exactly what our tactical team suggested, he said quietly. Then your tactical team knows their job. So do you. Before Devereaux could respond, the security chief entered. Commander Marcus Webb, 52, career Navy, 28 years of service written in the scars on his hands. We've got new intel, he said without preamble. Pulled up additional screens. Intercepted communications. The attack leader has been identified. A photograph appeared on the monitor. Devereaux's blood turned to ice. The face staring back at her was older, harder, scarred along the left side from burns that had healed badly. But she knew him, would know him anywhere. Lieutenant Callum Thorne, Webb read from the file, former Special Operations, discharged 3 years ago following Operation Nightfall, presumed killed in Kandahar 2 years ago. He's not dead, Devereaux whispered. Everyone turned to look at her. Knox stepped closer. You know him. It was not a question. He was my 2IC, my second in command, Operation Nightfall. The one who filed the report against you. Yes. Webb pulled up more intelligence. Thorne went rogue after his discharge, sold his skills to the highest bidder. We've linked him to 3 separate attacks on U.S. military installations in the past 18 months. Why is he here? Ryland asked. Why target this facility? Devereaux closed her eyes, already knowing the answer. Because I'm here. Knox understood immediately. This isn't about the base, it's about you. Thorne blamed me for everything. His discharge, his ruined career, the deaths of Morse and Vale. He swore he'd make me pay. So he's been tracking you. For how long, I don't know, but if he's planning an attack here, it's not random. It's personal. Webb pulled up additional intercepts, audio files, static-filled voices speaking in tactical shorthand. One voice cut through clearer than the others. Ghost Actual. I know you're there. 3 years I've waited. 3 years watching you play doctor while Morse and Vale rot in the ground. Time to finish what we started. Thorne's voice, distorted by radio transmission, but unmistakable. The room fell silent. Devereaux stared at the monitor, at the face of a man she once trusted with her life, a man who now wanted her dead. Outside, the sky had brightened to full morning, beautiful, peaceful, completely unaware of the violence preparing to descend. How long until the attack? Knox asked Webb. Best estimate, 24 to 36 hours. Defenses. We are reinforcing perimeter security, repositioning quick reaction forces. But if they hit us with the kind of coordination Thorne is capable of, we're going to take casualties. Knox turned to Devereaux. What's his most likely approach, Vector? She should have refused, should have maintained her distance. But people were going to die if she stayed silent. Thorne thinks like I do. We train together, plan missions together. She moved to the tactical display, began marking positions with quick, precise gestures. He'll create a diversion here. Draw your response forces, then hit the medical facility from multiple angles simultaneously. Why multiple angles? To prevent concentrated defense. Force you to spread resources thin. Classic assault doctrine. Ryland was making rapid notes. What about the medical facility's defensive posture? Devereaux evaluated the building's layout with eyes that saw tactical vulnerabilities instead of healing spaces. Too many windows, multiple access points. These interior walls won't stop rifle rounds. It's a nightmare to defend. Can we defend it? She was quiet for a long moment. With the right preparations, the right positioning. Maybe? Knox studied her face. You're thinking operationally, not medically. Old habits. Good habits. If Thorne is coming for you, we need someone who thinks like he does. That's not my job anymore, Commander. Maybe it needs to be, just for a little while. Before Devereaux could respond, Webb's radio erupted with urgent traffic. All stations, we have reports of convoy ambush. 5 miles from base. Multiple casualties. Incoming medevac ETA. 8 minutes. Devereaux moved immediately, the surgeon taking precedence over everything else. I need to prep trauma bays. She left at a run. Knox and Ryland followed. 8 minutes later, helicopters thundered out of the morning sky. 4 stretchers. 4 Marines. Broken and bleeding from an ambush that came from nowhere. Devereaux met them in full surgical mode. Assessing, prioritizing, directing her team with calm authority. But while her hands worked to save lives, her mind processed tactical information. What happened? She asked the least injured Marine while checking his vitals. Ambush. East Road. They knew exactly where to hit us. Had prepared positions. Professional operators. How many attackers? 4, maybe 5. Automatic weapons. Coordinated fire. Devereaux filed the information away. Continued working. 2 of the Marines were critical. She moved between them with practiced efficiency. Stopping bleeding. Stabilizing airways. Keeping them alive through sheer force of will and surgical skill. Knox watched from the edge of the trauma bay. Saw her hands move with impossible precision. Saw her eyes track multiple patients simultaneously. Saw the way she processed information and made decisions with speed that seemed almost supernatural. This was what Ghost Actual looked like in action. Calm, focused, absolutely in control. 3 hours later, all 4 Marines were stable. Devereaux stripped off bloody gloves, washed her hands with methodical care. Knox approached. They're going to make it, she said before he could ask. Because of you. Because of a good trauma team. Don't deflect, you saved them. Devereaux dried her hands. That's my job, Commander. Your job is also understanding what we're facing. Those Marines didn't stumble into a random attack. They were targeted, deliberately, to test our response times. I know. Thorne is mapping our defenses in real time. Every minute we wait, he gets more information. What do you want from me? Knox stepped closer. I want Ghost Actual's tactical assessment, not Dr. Hartley's medical opinion. Ghost Actual is dead. Is she? Because from where I'm standing, she's very much alive. Devereaux met his eyes. You don't know what you're asking. I'm asking you to help us prepare for an attack that's coming, whether we're ready or not. I'm asking you to use skills that might save lives. I left that world for a reason. I know, but that world has found you anyway. The truth of it settled over her like a weight. Thorne was coming. People were going to die, and she was the only one who might be able to stop it. All right, she said quietly. What do you need? For the next 6 hours, Devereaux worked with Webb and the security team, analyzed defensive positions, suggested improvements, identified vulnerabilities. She tried to keep it clinical, professional, but every recommendation revealed more of who she used to be. Where to position defenders for maximum fields of fire. How to create kill zones without exposing friendly forces. Which walls to reinforce. Which windows to sandbag. Old knowledge, old skills, rising to the surface like bodies from deep water. By early afternoon, the medical facility had been transformed. Not dramatically, not obviously, but in ways that would matter when bullets started flying. Devereaux stood in the main corridor, looked at what she had helped create, a hospital prepared for war. You're good at this, Ryland said. I used to be. You still are. She did not respond, could not respond, because he was right, and that terrified her more than Thorne's imminent attack. Evening fell over San Diego in shades of orange and purple. Beautiful, peaceful, the calm before the storm. Devereaux made rounds, checked on her patients. Wolf was awake now, fever broken, mind clear. Doc, he said when she entered his room, I said some things when I was out of it. You had a high fever, it's not uncommon. I called you Ghost Actual. She was quiet. I was on the support element for Operation Nightfall, Wolf continued. Met the team leader during mission briefing. Never forgot that face. He looked at her with eyes that held understanding. You saved 12 Marines that night, Captain. I was one of them. You should rest, Sergeant. My daughter turns 3 next month. Her name is Brighton, after the operator who died getting us out. Devereaux's chest tightened. Specialist Vale, she said softly. Yes, ma'am. If you hadn't made the call you made, I wouldn't have met my wife. Wouldn't have my daughter. She exists because of you. 2 men died because of me. 2 men died as heroes. That's different. Devereaux had no answer to that. Wolf reached out, took her hand. Whatever's coming, Doc, we've got your back. You saved us then. We'll save you now. She squeezed his hand gently. Thank you, Sergeant. Call me Tad. Thank you, Tad. She left his room with tears threatening to fall. Found Knox waiting in the corridor. Intel update, he said. Thorne's force is moving. We're estimating contact within 12 hours. Defense is ready. As ready as we can be, but there's something else. He pulled up a tablet, showed her intercepted video footage. 4 Marines, bound, on their knees, somewhere dark. The same 4 from the convoy ambush. Thorne's voice came through speakers. Devereaux, I have your Marines. 4 lives. You know the drill. Surrender yourself, or I execute them. 1 every hour until you comply. The video ended. Devereaux stared at the blank screen. This was Syria all over again. The same impossible choice. The same calculation of lives against lives. It's a trap, Knox said. You go out there, he kills you and them. I know. So we wait for backup, reinforce our position, let Thorne make the first move. He'll kill them. Maybe, probably, but if you surrender, everyone dies. Devereaux looked at the dark screen, at the reflection of her own face staring back. There's another option, she said quietly. What? She turned to face him fully. The medical facility has utility tunnels. They connect to the main base infrastructure, access points throughout the compound. Knox understood immediately. You want to infiltrate. Go after Thorne directly. I want to get those Marines out before he can execute them. That's suicide. That's what I do. You're a doctor now. I'm a doctor who used to be something else, something that might be useful right about now. Ryland had joined them. Doc, 1 person against Thorne's entire force. Those odds are impossible. Ghost Actual never needed an army, Devereaux said. Her voice carried echoes of someone she used to be. Just darkness and surprise. Knox shook his head. I can't authorize this. It's too risky. You don't need to authorize it. I'm going anyway. Then at least take backup. No, you stay here, defend the patients, keep them alive. That's the mission. She moved toward the utility access in the basement. Knox followed, grabbed her arm. Devereaux, Doc, if you don't come back, then you tell Wolf his daughter has a guardian angel named Brighton Vale, and you make sure she knows her father was saved by operators who gave everything. She pulled free, moved to the tunnel entrance. Behind her, Knox and Ryland stood helpless, watching as Dr. Devereaux Hartley descended into darkness, watching as Ghost Actual returned to war. The tunnel swallowed her whole, and above in the rapidly approaching night, Callum Thorne prepared his attack. Unaware that the ghost he had been hunting was now hunting him. The tunnel swallowed all light. Devereaux moved through absolute darkness with the certainty of muscle memory. No hesitation, no fumbling. 8 years of night operations had taught her body to navigate without eyes. Her fingertips traced rough concrete walls, counted paces, mapped the route through mental calculation alone. Above the base continued its evening routine. Personnel moving between buildings, vehicles on patrol. The ordinary rhythm of military life, unaware that war was already moving through its veins. She wore only surgical scrubs, carried nothing but knowledge burned into bone through 1,000 missions that officially never existed. No weapon, no gear, no backup, just training and necessity. The tunnel forked ahead. She felt the temperature change before she saw the junction. Went left without breaking stride. Toward the eastern perimeter where intelligence suggested Thorne had positioned his command element. Where 4 Marines waited in the dark. Where Callum Thorne waited for her surrender. He would wait a long time. 90 minutes until his execution deadline. 90 minutes to do what she had spent 3 years trying to forget. Her breathing fell into controlled rhythm. 4 counts in through the nose. 6 counts out through the mouth. Parasympathetic nervous system activation. Heart rate dropping from 70 to 58. Blood pressure optimal. Body preparing for violence the way other people prepared for sleep. The tunnel exit appeared as a rectangle of lesser darkness. She crouched at the threshold. Listened. Night carried sounds most people never heard. Wind moving through dried grass. Insects maintaining their endless chorus. Generator hum from temporary structures 300 meters north. Boot steps on gravel. 2 sentries walking patrol routes with the boredom of men who expected nothing. And underneath everything, the electric crackle of an open radio channel. Someone monitoring frequencies, waiting for orders that had not yet come. Devereaux emerged into open ground, moved low across dead space. Grass whispered against her legs. Her footfalls made no sound. Actual had never been metaphor. It had been literal description. Dozens of after-action reports describing operators who appeared from nowhere, disappeared into nothing, left only results behind. The 1st sentry never registered her presence. She rose from darkness directly behind him. Left hand covered his mouth before he could call out. Right hand found the carotid pressure point with surgical precision. 3 seconds of applied force, unconscious without struggle. His body went limp. She lowered him to earth as gently as laying down a patient. Took his radio, his night vision goggles, the combat knife sheathed on his belt. The 2nd sentry turned at absence of sound. Thompson radio check. Devereaux keyed the microphone, made a sound that approximated confirmation. Say again, you're breaking up. She moved while he focused on his radio. Closed distance during his distraction. Professional operators called it exploiting the decision cycle. Creating confusion. Attacking during the pause between stimulus and response. He saw her at 5 feet, too close. Started to raise his weapon. Training faster than thought. She redirected the rifle barrel left. Drove her knee into his solar plexus. He folded. She caught him. Applied the same pressure technique. 2 sentries down. 0 shots fired. 0 alarms raised. The night vision goggles transformed the world. Shades of green revealing what eyes alone could not see. Buildings ahead. Temporary structures not part of the base proper. Heat signatures moving inside. Thorne's staging area. She approached with tactical awareness replacing caution. Time was bleeding away. The Marines had maybe 70 minutes before execution. Every second spent cautious was a second they sat waiting to die. The first building showed 6 heat signatures, 2 at the entrance, 4 on roving patrol, amateur positioning, too predictable. They expected attack from the base perimeter, not from behind their own security line. Devereaux circled wide, found the rear entrance. Simple door, basic lock. She picked it using a tension wrench improvised from a hairpin in 40 seconds. The door opened silent. She slipped inside. Darkness and voices. Thorne's voice among them. She moved towards sound with steps placed precisely. Each footfall testing weight before committing. Each breath controlled. Voices grew clearer. Status on their defensive posture. Medical facilities reinforced. Sandbags. Extra security. They're taking it seriously. Good. Thorne's voice carried satisfaction. When we hit them, make it overwhelming. Maximum casualties in the first 30 seconds. I want chaos. What about the Marines? Execute the first one in 60 minutes, then one every hour until ghost shows. Devereaux reached the doorway, peered around the frame. 5 men clustered around tactical displays, all armed, all focused on screens showing the base layout, planning their attack with professional precision. In the corner bound to chairs 4 Marines, faces bruised, uniforms torn, but breathing, alive. Getting them out with 5 armed men and hostages in the crossfire violated every tactical principle. Suicide odds. So she would change the equation. She retreated, moved through the building, found a storage room filled with ammunition crates, fuel cans, everything needed to create the chaos Thorne wanted to bring to others. Worked quickly. Rigged the crates using basic demolition principles learned in another life. Nothing sophisticated, just fundamentals applied with precision. Set the timer for 5 minutes. Enough time to position, not enough for second thoughts. Moved back toward the hostage room. Positioned herself in shadow. The mental countdown had become automatic. 300 seconds. 299. 298. At 0 the world would change. She waited. The explosion tore through the building's east side. Concussion wave. Flash of light. Fire blooming in the storage room. Alarms screaming their mechanical panic. Contact, we're under attack. All 5 guards rushed toward the explosion. Weapons raised, training overriding thought. They left the Marines unguarded, left the door open. Devereaux moved. The combat knife cut through plastic flex cuffs in seconds. Ghost actual. Follow me. Complete silence. The 4 Marines stared. Shock and recognition fighting across their faces. They followed, out the rear entrance, into darkness, toward tunnel access and safety, 200 meters distant. They covered half the distance before someone shouted behind them. The hostages are gone. All units, hostages are mobile. Gunfire erupted. Bullets cracked past too close. Devereaux felt one tug her sleeve, heard another impact earth inches from her foot. Run, she ordered the Marines. Tunnel entrance 100 meters ahead. Run and do not stop for anything. The Marines ran. Devereaux turned back, toward pursuers, toward muzzle flashes in darkness, toward violence she had sworn to leave behind. Muscle memory took over. She moved through terrain using every fold of ground, every shadow, everything they had drilled into her until it became reflexive. Two pursuers rounded a corner. She took the first with a strike to the throat. Controlled force, enough to drop him choking, not enough to kill. The second raised his weapon. She was inside his guard before he could fire. Redirected the barrel, drove the knife pommel into his temple. He collapsed. Both down, both breathing. She continued moving. Behind her, the Marines reached the tunnel, disappeared into safety. Mission accomplished. Hostages extracted. She should have followed, should have retreated to the medical facility, should have let Thorne's operation collapse without her. But Callum Thorne was here, planning to kill her people, planning to bring war to a place of healing, and she could not let him walk away. Not this time. The main command post occupied the largest building. More guards, heavier security, radio chatter pouring from open doors and windows. Thorne was inside. She felt it with certainty born of years working alongside him, knowing his patterns, his preferences, the way he positioned himself at the center of operations. Devereaux placed her final improvised charge against a structural support column, set the timer for 5 minutes, checked it twice, then walked through the front door. Inside, Thorne stood over a tactical display. 3 years had aged him. Burn scars twisted the left side of his face, legacy of Kandahar or some other place where violence found him after he went rogue. But his eyes remained unchanged, hard, calculating, absolutely certain of his righteousness. He looked up as she entered. No surprise crossed his features. No shock. He had been waiting. Hello, Devereaux. His voice carried no anger. Just statement of fact, like commenting on weather. Callum, you look different. The doctor role suits you. Softer somehow. You look different too. The scars. Kandahar. Among other operations. Turns out mercenary work has occupational hazards. He stepped away from the display. Your Marines are safe. Already back at base. I know, I tracked them on thermals. Let them go. Understanding hit. This was never about the Marines. No, this was always about you and me. Unfinished business from Syria. His men moved to surround her, weapons raised, fingers on triggers. Thorne waved them back. No, this is between us. Has been for 3 years. 4 minutes, 30 seconds. The timer counted down in her head. Automatic, relentless. You came for revenge, Devereaux said. I came for justice. There's a difference. Is there? Thorne's expression hardened. Kellen Morse was 23 years old, engaged to Samantha Wells. They had a wedding date, June 14th. The invitations were already printed. His voice carried old pain wrapped in fury. Brighton Vale had a wife, Rebecca, and a son, 8 months old, named Owen. That baby will never know his father, will never hear his voice, will never feel his arms. 4 minutes. They died because you chose to play hero with 12 strangers instead of protecting your own team. They died saving those 12 lives, Devereaux countered. That means something. Does it? You tell me what it means to Samantha Wells. You explain to her why she got a folded flag instead of a husband. You look Rebecca Vale in the eye and justify why her son grows up without a father. 3 minutes 30. I live with that choice every single day, Devereaux said. Her voice remained steady despite the weight crushing her chest. Changed my entire life because of it. You ran away. I tried to atone. By hiding playing, pretend you think wearing scrubs instead of fatigues changes what you are. It changes what I do, who I help, how I make choices. Thorne shook his head. You can't change your nature. We're killers, Devereaux, soldiers, operators. That's our purpose. That was our purpose. Past tense. Sit. He gestured at the building around them. You just infiltrated my compound. Neutralized sentries. Extracted hostages under fire. That's not a doctor. That's ghost actual. 3 minutes. Ghost Actual did what was necessary to save lives, Devereaux said. Same as I did in Syria. Same as I do in the operating room every day. You got two of our own killed. The shout echoed in the room, raw emotion breaking through Thorne's control. I did? Devereaux agreed. No deflection. No excuse. I made a tactical decision. Prioritize saving 12 Marines over mission parameters. Morse and Vale died because of that choice. 2 minutes 30. And I've asked myself every day since if it was worth it. If 12 lives justify 2 deaths. If the math works out to something I can live with. Anne, Thorne demanded, what's your answer? I don't have one. The admission seemed to shock him more than any argument could have. I don't have a clean answer, Devereaux continued. Some days I think I made the only choice I could live with. Other days I think I murdered 2 brothers to save strangers. Most days I think both things are true. She met his eyes. But I'll tell you what I do know. One of those 12 Marines I saved is named Thaddeus Wolfe. He has a daughter, 3 years old. He named her Brighton, after the man who died saving him. Thorne's jaw clenched. Brighton Vale's son Owen is 6 now. His mother made sure he knows his father was a hero, that he saved 12 families from grief, that his sacrifice had meaning. 2 minutes. And Samantha Wells remarried, has 2 children, visits Morse's grave every year on their wedding date, tells him about her life, thanks him for his service, for making her the woman she became. Devereaux's voice softened. They didn't die for nothing, Callum. They died as heroes. And I've spent 3 years making sure their sacrifice keeps saving lives. 1 minute 30. Thorne was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried less certainty. You really believe that I have to, because the alternative is I killed 2 brothers for nothing, and I can't live in that world. So you became a doctor. I became someone who heals instead of hurts, who saves instead of destroys. It's not running, it's evolving. 1 minute. Devereaux's hand moved slowly to her pocket, drew out the detonator, held it where Thorne could see. This building has explosives wired to its support structure. They detonate in 50 seconds. Thorne's eyes widened slightly. Bluffing. When have I ever bluffed? His hand moved toward his sidearm. So what? We both die here, that's your plan. My plan is to stop you from killing anyone else. If that requires dying, then that's the price. 40 seconds. But you have a choice, Callum. Shoot me. Prove I'm still the killer you remember. The operator who prioritizes mission over everything. 30 seconds. Or run, live. Maybe find your own way to atone for what you've become. 20 seconds. Their eyes locked. Years of partnership, years of trust, years of shared missions and impossible odds. All of it reduced to this moment, this choice. Thorne's hand hovered over his weapon. 15 seconds. You really did change, he said quietly. We both did. Question is whether change makes us better or just different. 10 seconds. Thorne's hand dropped. I spent 3 years hating you for what happened in Syria, blaming you for every loss, every failure. 5 seconds. Maybe I was hating the wrong thing. Run, Callum. Run now. They both moved. Out the door, across open ground, away from the building that was about to become fire and shrapnel and memory. The explosion tore through the night. Concussion wave threw Devereaux forward. She hit earth hard, rolled with the impact, came up moving despite ringing ears and blurred vision. Behind her, Thorne's command post collapsed into flames. She did not look back, ran toward the tunnel entrance, toward safety, toward the life she had chosen over the one she left behind. Gunfire chased her. Thorne's remaining forces, angry, confused, desperate. Bullets kicked up dirt. She felt one graze her shoulder, kept running, reached the tunnel, dropped through the access grate, pulled it closed above her, disappeared into darkness. Ghost. Actual vanishing one final time. Dawn broke over San Diego in shades of copper and rose. Beautiful. Indifferent. The world continued turning whether Ghost found peace or not. Devereaux emerged from the tunnel system in the medical facility basement, covered in dirt and blood, bruised, exhausted, but alive. Knox and Ryland waited with weapons raised, faces tense. They lowered their rifles when they saw her. The Marines, Devereaux asked. Her voice came out rough. Safe, all 4, thanks to you. Knox moved closer. Thorne, his operations destroyed, forces scattered. No sign of him in the sweep. Knox nodded, not surprised. Operators like that don't die easy. No, they don't. You're bleeding. Ryland gestured at her shoulder. Graze, nothing serious. Let me look anyway. She let him examine the wound, clean through and through. Muscle damage, but nothing critical. She had been lucky. I need to check on my patients, she said when he finished bandaging. Knox stepped aside. They've been asking about you. She climbed the stairs. Every step revealed new bruises, new pains, the cost of one night playing operator instead of doctor. But the Marines were alive. The patients were safe. The facility stood intact. Some prices were worth paying. 2 hours later, Colonel Harrison arrived for debriefing. The official story was clean, simple. Base security repelled an attack by unknown hostiles. 4 Marines rescued during the confusion. Medical staff remained at their posts, casualties minimal. Dr. Devereaux Hartley had done her job. Nothing more, nothing less. The colonel accepted the report without question, thanked the security team, praised the medical staff, left without mentioning tunnels or infiltrations or legends returning from the dead. When he departed, Devereaux found herself in the locker room. Alone, she opened her locker. Inside, taped to the door, the photograph of 12 Marines smiled back at her. Young faces, tired eyes, alive because she refused to leave them. Beside it, something she had not looked at in 3 years. 2 dog tags on chains. SSG Kellen Morse. OPOS, Catholic. SPC Brighton Vale. A POS, no preference. She had kept them, could not bring herself to return them to families, could not let go of the weight she carried. Devereaux lifted the tags, felt the metal cool against her palms, read the names she had memorized long ago. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry I couldn't save everyone. I'm sorry you died for my choices. The tags offered no answer, no absolution. But I promise I'm making your sacrifice mean something. Every life I save, every surgery, every patient who walks out of here alive, that's you, that's your legacy. She placed the tags around her neck, felt their weight settle against her chest, over her heart, where they belonged. A knock on the door. Knox entered her without waiting for permission. We need to talk. About an offer from the team. He sat across from her. Ryland joined them, both men serious. SEAL Medical Corps needs a doctor who understands combat operations, Knox began. Someone who can operate under fire, who knows tactics and trauma equally well. You want me to stop hiding, Devereaux said. We want you to stop dividing yourself. You're not just a doctor, not just an operator. You're both. We need both. Ryland leaned forward. Last night you risked everything to save 4 strangers. 3 years ago you made the same choice for 12 strangers. That's not a flaw. That's exactly who we need. Devereaux touched the dog tags at her throat. If I do this, if I integrate instead of separate, you need to understand something. What? I will always choose saving lives over completing missions. Always. That's non-negotiable. Knox smiled. That's exactly what we're counting on. She looked at both men, saw acceptance, understanding, a future where she did not have to be half of herself to live the other half. All right, let's discuss terms. 3 days later, Devereaux made final rounds before Wolf's discharge. You're cleared, she said. Physical therapy starts next week. Protocol is aggressive but necessary. Follow it, and you'll be back to full duty in 6 months. Thanks, Doc, he paused. Heard you're joining the team. Looks that way. Good, we need you. He reached for his phone. I want to show you something. He pulled up a photograph, a little girl with dark hair and bright eyes, smiling at the camera with pure joy. This is Brighton. Took this yesterday. 3 years old. Devereaux's breath caught. She's beautiful. She exists because of you, because you valued my life enough to risk everything, to face consequences, to live with choices that have no good answers. His voice broke. Vale's son Owen is in 1st grade now. His mom tells him stories about his father, about how he saved 12 families, about how his sacrifice meant something real. Wolf took Devereaux's hand. Morse's fiancée Samantha has 2 kids now, twin boys. She visits his grave every year. Thanks him. Tells him about the life she built because he gave everything. Tears blurred Devereaux's vision. Tad, they died as heroes. You honored their sacrifice by making sure it saved lives, by becoming someone who keeps saving lives. That's not running. That's evolution. He squeezed her hand. Welcome back, Ghost Actual. We missed you. 2 weeks later, official orders arrived on military letterhead. Lieutenant Commander Devereaux Hartley, SEAL Medical Corps. Reporting date in 72 hours. She stood in her quarters, holding the new uniform, combat patches, medical insignia, both together, integrated, whole. Outside dawn painted the world in shades of gold. A helicopter waited on the pad, rotors beginning their lazy rotation, preparing for flight. Knox knocked, entered without waiting. Ready, Devereaux touched the dog tags at her throat, felt their familiar weight. I thought leaving special operations meant leaving Ghost Actual behind. Thought I could separate who I was from who I wanted to be. And now I understand Ghost Actual never died. Just evolved, learned to heal instead of hurt, to save instead of destroy, to honor sacrifice by making it mean something. She pulled on the new uniform. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her to stop running and claim it. Where are we going? She asked. Arctic operations. Medical support for cold weather training. Sounds challenging. Knox grinned. Probably dangerous too. Think you can handle it? Devereaux looked at her reflection, saw both versions of herself finally united. Doctor and operator, healer and warrior. Past and future merged into present. Yeah, I can handle it. They walked to the helicopter together. The morning air smelled of salt and promise, of futures unwritten, of ghosts finally at peace. Wolf was already aboard, leg healing but ready, Pike beside him, Ryland across from them. Knox took the seat next to her. The helicopter lifted. San Diego fell away below, the medical facility growing smaller. The place where she had hidden becoming just one part of her story instead of the whole thing. Devereaux closed her eyes, felt the familiar rhythm of flight. In her mind, faces appeared. Not haunting, just present. Morse. Vale. 12 Marines, Brighton Wolf. Owen Vale. Samantha's twin boys. Lives saved, lives lost, lives changed. All of it meaningful because she chose to carry the weight instead of running from it. The helicopter banked east, toward morning, toward missions unknown, toward whatever came next. And Dr. Devereaux Hartley, callsign Ghost Actual, flew toward her future. No longer running from her past, but carrying it forward with honor. Where healing and fighting were not opposites, but two sides of the same commitment. Where she could be whole, where Ghost did not haunt. They served. Epilogue, 6 months later, international waters. Precise location classified. A darkened warehouse near a port city. Salt air mixed with diesel fumes. Ships moving in distant channels. Callum Thorne sat before a laptop. The burn scars had healed as much as they would. He had grown accustomed to the way mirrors showed a stranger's face. On the screen, surveillance footage. Recent. High quality. Devereaux boarding a helicopter. New uniform. SEAL Medical Corps insignia visible. Surrounded by operators who treated her as one of their own. She was not hiding anymore. Not running. Not pretending to be half of herself. An encrypted phone buzzed. Thorne answered. Target has returned to active field operations, a voice reported. I know. Standing orders were to engage when opportunity presented. Thorne watched the footage, saw Devereaux laugh at something Knox said, saw her belong in a way she never had before. Change of orders, he said quietly. Sir, continue surveillance, but do not engage. Do not interfere. Can you clarify? She made her choice. I made mine. Let's see where they lead. He closed the laptop, stood, moved toward the warehouse exit. Behind him, the screen went dark. Ahead, the future waited, uncertain, unwritten, full of possibilities that had not yet revealed themselves. But that was a story for another day. For now, in morning light painting the world in shades of hope, Dr. Devereaux Hartley served. Healed, fought, lived, finally whole, finally home.